Imagine waking up to the smell of cold stone and wood smoke. You are huddled close to a dying fire, and the only light comes from the dancing orange embers reflecting off the damp cave walls. Outside, the world is a vast, untamed wilderness where the wind howls through the valley. You do not have a clock or a calendar. Your life is measured by the rising sun and the seasonal migration of the herds. Every muscle in your body aches from the hunt from yesterday, and your stomach growls with a hunger that never truly leaves you. This is not a movie or a museum display. This is your reality. You are one of the last of your kind, navigating a landscape filled with predators and wonder. Strip away your modern comforts and prepare to see the world through eyes that have only known the wild. Imagine the first thing you feel when you wake up is not the chime of an alarm or the softness of a cotton pillow. It is the cold, a deep, biting chill that seems to have its own weight, pressing down on you from the darkness above. You are lying on a bed of dried grass and animal hides, tucked into a shallow depression in the earth near the back of a limestone cavern. The air you breathe is thick with the scent of wood smoke, damp stone, and the musk of dozens of bodies huddled together for warmth. This is your world. This is the Pleistocene. As you shift your weight, your joints do not ache with the stiffness of modern sedentary life. Instead, they feel primed, like a coiled spring. Your body is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, honed by generations of survival in a world that never stops trying to kill you. You are shorter than the average person of the 21st century, but you are significantly more robust. Your bones are thicker, your muscle attachments are stronger, and your hands are calloused and capable. You reach out a hand and feel the rough texture of the cave wall, your fingers tracing the grooves where others have touched the stone for thousands of years before you were even born. You do not live in a vacuum of silence. Even in the pre-dawn gloom, the cave is alive with sound. You hear the rhythmic breathing of your kin, the occasional cough of an elder, and the low, guttering hiss of the communal fire that has been kept burning for weeks. Outside the mouth of the cave, the wind howls across a landscape that looks nothing like the world you once knew. There are no forests of towering oaks here, only a vast, rolling steppe of hardy grasses and scrub brush, stretching out toward a horizon that feels infinite. You sit up and wrap a heavy cloak of bison hide around your shoulders. The fur is coarse against your skin, but it is the difference between life and death. You move toward the fire, stepping carefully over the sleeping forms of your brothers and sisters. In this society, privacy is a concept that does not exist. You are part of a collective, a single organism made of 30 individuals who move, eat, and breathe as one. To be alone is to be dead. Your identity is forged not by your personal achievements, but by your contribution to the survival of the group. As you reach the fire, you see the designated fire keeper, a woman whose face is a roadmap of scars and wrinkles, stirring the embers with a charred stick. She looks up and nods, her eyes reflecting the orange glow. There is no need for a complex greeting. A grunt, a look, a subtle shift in posture conveys everything that needs to be said. You sit beside her and hold your hands out to the heat. Your fingernails are broken and stained with earth. Your skin is etched with the grime of daily existence, yet you feel a profound sense of belonging. The sun begins to crest the horizon, casting a pale, weak light into the mouth of the cave. This is the moment when the world truly wakes up. You stand and walk toward the entrance, your bare feet indifferent to the cold pebbles on the floor. As you step out onto the ledge, the scale of the Pleistocene landscape hits you like a physical blow. To the north, a massive wall of blue ice glitters in the distance, a glacier that has dominated the land for millennia. The air is so clear it hurts your lungs, devoid of the smog and dust of the industrial age. You scan the horizon with eyes that are trained to see what modern humans have long since forgotten how to notice. You are looking for movement, for the telltale puff of breath in the cold air, for the way the grass bends against the wind. In the distance, a herd of woolly mammoths moves like slow, brown clouds across the tundra. They are magnificent, terrifying giants, their tusks curving like scimitars. You feel a pang of hunger, a sharp reminder that your stomach has been empty for nearly 2 days. But before you can hunt, you must prepare. You return to the interior of the cave where the light is now strong enough to work. You pick up a core of flint, a heavy, dark stone that was traded from a group 3 valleys away. This stone is your most precious possession. It is your knife, your axe, your scraper, and your spear point. You take a hammer stone made of dense river rock and strike the flint with a practiced, rhythmic motion. Clack, clack, clack. The sound echoes through the cavern, a percussive song of technology. With every strike, you are peeling away thin, razor-sharp flakes of stone. You are not just making a tool, you are performing a ritual that connects you to the very essence of human ingenuity. You look at the flake in your hand. It is sharper than any steel surgical scalpel. You test the edge with your thumb, feeling the microscopic serrations catch on your skin. This bit of stone is what allows a hairless, clawless primate like you to compete with lions and bears. As the rest of the tribe begins to stir, the cave becomes a hive of activity. Children chase each other through the shadows, their laughter ringing out with a timeless quality. They are small versions of the adults, already learning how to scrape hides and identify edible roots. There is no school here, only the constant, immersive education of staying alive. You watch a young boy practicing with a miniature spear, his face set in a mask of intense concentration. He is not playing. He is rehearsing for the day he will have to stand his ground against a charging rhinoceros. Life on the Pleistocene edge is a delicate balance of extreme brutality and profound tenderness. You see an older man, his leg twisted from a long ago encounter with a cave hyena, being helped to the fire by 2 younger hunters. In a world governed by the survival of the fittest, you might expect the weak to be abandoned, but that is not the human way. You care for your wounded. You share your food. You tell stories of the ancestors who lived through the great droughts and the deep freezes. Your culture is stored not in books, but in the collective memory of the tribe, passed down through songs and gestures and the simple act of being together. You begin to gather your gear for the day. You check your spear, ensuring the stone point is lashed firmly to the wooden shaft with strips of dried sinew. You check your pouch of dried berries and smoked meat, though it is nearly empty. The pressure to find food is constant, a low-level hum of anxiety that sits at the back of your mind. You know that if the hunt fails today, the youngest children will start to grow weak. If it fails for a week, the elders will begin to fade. You look out at the landscape once more. It is a world of staggering beauty and relentless hardship. There are no maps here, no roads, no borders. There is only the land and your knowledge of it. You know where the hidden springs are, where the berries ripen first, and where the predators like to hide in the tall grass. You are not a visitor in this wilderness, you are a part of it. Your heartbeat is synced to the rhythm of the seasons, to the migration of the herds, and to the rising and falling of the sun. As you prepare to step off the ledge and descend into the valley, you take a moment to breathe in the raw, cold air. You feel the weight of the spear in your hand and the strength in your legs. You are a caveman, a title that future generations will use as an insult, but you know better. You are a survivor. You are the vanguard of the human race, standing on the edge of a world that is vast, dangerous, and utterly magnificent. You take your first step onto the Pleistocene steppe, leaving your footprints in the frost, marking your place in a story that is only just beginning. The hunt is calling, and the wild is waiting. You sit back against the cold, rough stone of the cave wall, but you do not feel the chill. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke, roasted fat, and the earthy, unwashed smell of 20 people packed into a small space. This is your world, not the vast, empty wilderness outside, but this small circle of faces illuminated by the dancing orange light of the fire. To be human in the Paleolithic is not to be a lonely survivor. It is to be a single thread in a tightly woven fabric of kinship. If you were alone out there in the dark, you would be nothing more than a snack for a cave hyena. Here, inside the circle, you are a part of a collective mind, a shared soul that has survived for thousands of generations. Look around at the people sitting with you. There is the old woman whose eyes are clouded with cataracts, yet she knows every bend in the river and every berry bush within a 3-day walk. There is the young man nursing a bruised shoulder from today's hunt, and the children wrestling in the shadows just beyond the firelight. These are not just your friends or your neighbors. They are your life support system. In this era, the concept of the individual is almost non-existent. You do not think in terms of what I want to do today, but rather what we need to move toward tomorrow. This is the band, the fundamental unit of human existence for 99% of our history. Your band is likely small, perhaps 25 to 30 people. This is a magic number in human evolution. It is small enough that everyone knows everyone else's temperament, their skills, and their failures, but large enough to defend against predators and successfully take down large game. You know exactly who is prone to exaggerating their exploits and who can be trusted to stay silent when stalking a deer. You know the specific way your sister laughs and the way the group leader clears his throat when he is annoyed. This intimacy is your greatest tool for survival. But how do you all stay on the same page? You listen. The fire is not just for warmth or cooking. It is the birthplace of human culture. Before the fire, your ancestors spent their daylight hours gathering food and their nights huddling in the dark, eyes wide with fear. But once your ancestors tamed the flame, the night was transformed. The hours between sunset and sleep became social hours. This is when the stories are told. As you watch the flames, the elders speak of the great spirits in the sky or the time the mountains shook. They are not just entertaining you. They are downloading a survival manual into your brain. They are teaching you where the water hides during a drought and which plants will settle an upset stomach. This communication goes far beyond simple grunts. You possess a language as complex and nuanced as any spoken today. You have words for the specific texture of snow that is good for tracking and the exact shade of a cloud that precedes a summer storm. But more importantly, you use this language for gossip. It sounds trivial, but gossip is the glue of the Paleolithic. By talking about who did not share their portion of the gather or who fell asleep on watch, you are regulating the behavior of the group. In a world where cooperation is mandatory, being the subject of negative gossip is a serious threat to your status. You work hard to stay in the group's good graces because to be cast out is a death sentence. The social web you inhabit is remarkably egalitarian. There are no kings here, no lords, and no police. There is no one to give an order that must be followed under threat of prison. Instead, leadership is earned every single day. The person leading the hunt today might not be the person leading the move to the winter camp next month. Power is fluid and based on expertise. If you are the best at flint knapping, people listen to you when it is time to make tools. If you are a gifted peacemaker, the group turns to you when two cousins are arguing over a found piece of honey. This equality extends to the roles of men and women more than you might think. While the old stereotypes suggest the men were the sole providers while women waited at home, your reality is much more balanced. Everyone works. The women and children provide the vast majority of the daily calories by gathering tubers, nuts, and insects. The meat provided by the hunters is a high-value prize, but it is inconsistent. You know that without the steady work of the gatherers, the group would starve. Because everyone contributes to the belly of the band, everyone has a voice in the decisions of the band. But life is not always harmonious within your small circle. Humans have always been humans, and that means there is jealousy, anger, and rivalry. Perhaps you feel a flash of resentment when someone else is praised for a kill you helped drive into the trap. Or maybe a conflict over a mate causes a rift that lasts for weeks. In a modern city, you could simply walk away and never see that person again. But here you are trapped together. You must find a way to reconcile. You use ritual to heal these wounds. You sing together, a rhythmic, haunting sound that vibrates in your chest and syncs your heartbeats. You dance until you are exhausted, the shared movement melting away individual grievances into a collective trance. Your social world does not end at the edge of the firelight, either. Even though your band is your primary family, you are part of something larger. Every few months, or perhaps once a year when the salmon run or the reindeer migrate, your band meets with others. These are the tribes. You might see 200 people gathered in one valley, a staggering number that feels both exciting and overwhelming. These gatherings are crucial. They are the trade shows of the Stone Age. You swap high-quality obsidian from the mountains for seashells from the coast. You share news of far-off lands and, most importantly, you find partners. You cannot marry within your small band because you are all closely related. These seasonal meetups are where young people find mates from other groups, ensuring the health and genetic diversity of the next generation. You recognize these other people as kin, even if you only see them once a year, because you share the same language, the same style of tool making, and the same marks tattooed or painted on your skin. As you sit in the cave, you might reach out and touch the wall. Earlier in the day, you or one of your kin pressed a hand against the stone and blew red ochre over it, leaving a negative silhouette. This is your signature. It is a way of saying, I am here and I belong to this place and these people. These handprints are not just art. They are a map of your social network. They are a physical manifestation of the ties that bind you to your ancestors and to those who will come after you. The safety you feel in this moment is the result of millions of years of evolution prioritizing the group over the individual. You are warm because someone else gathered the wood. You are full because someone else shared their find. You are safe because someone else is sitting at the mouth of the cave watching the darkness. This interdependence is the true secret of the cavemen. It was not our spears or our fire that allowed us to conquer the planet, but our ability to look at another person and see ourselves. The fire begins to die down to a low, glowing bed of coals. The conversations turn to soft murmurs, then to the rhythmic breathing of deep sleep. You curl up against your kin, the warmth of their bodies as vital as the fire itself. In this world, you are never truly alone. The social web holds you tight, providing the foundation for everything you are and everything you will become. But as the last embers flicker, You know that tomorrow will bring new challenges that require more than just social bonds. It will require the cleverness of your hands and the sharpness of your mind. The stars outside are bright and cold, watching over a world that is as beautiful as it is dangerous. You are ready for it because you have your people. Together, you are an unbreakable force, a tiny flicker of humanity in a vast, wild universe. The stories of the elders still echo in your mind, blending with the sounds of the night. You drift off to sleep, knowing that when the sun rises, the dance of survival begins anew, fueled by the strength of the tribe and the ancient laws of kinship. The path ahead is long, and the terrain is unforgiving, but the connections you have forged here in the dark are the strongest tools you possess. You wake before the sun has fully claimed the sky. The air is crisp, biting at your skin where your furs have shifted during the night. Your stomach is a hollow ache, a constant companion that dictates the rhythm of your day. This is not the hunger of a missed lunch in the modern world. This is a deep, biological drive that sharpens your senses and focuses your mind. You do not reach for a cupboard or a shelf. Instead, you reach for your digging stick and your sharpened flint. Your survival today depends entirely on your knowledge of the landscape and your ability to read the subtle signs written in the dirt and the leaves. As you step out of the shelter of the cave or the temporary lean-to, the world reveals itself as a massive, wild supermarket, but one without labels and filled with potential poisons. You are part of a small group, mostly women and children, who provide the steady, reliable foundation of the group's nutrition. While the hunters might dream of the glory of a mammoth kill, it is your expertise in the green world that keeps everyone alive day after day. You walk toward a meadow where the earth is soft and damp. You are looking for specific leaves, heart-shaped and slightly fuzzy. You know that beneath these leaves lies a starchy tuber, a buried treasure of carbohydrates that will give you the energy to keep moving. You kneel in the dirt, your fingers working with practiced ease to loosen the soil. The smell of damp earth and decaying vegetation fills your nostrils. This is the scent of life. You pull the root from the ground, shaking off the clods of mud. It is small, woody, and tough, nothing like the soft, oversized potatoes of the future. You will have to roast this for hours to make it even remotely chewable, but it is a prize nonetheless. As you move through the scrubland, you are constantly scanning. You see a cluster of wild berries, bright red and tempting. You stop. Your grandmother told you stories about these berries. If you eat the ones with the jagged leaves, your stomach will cramp and your vision will blur. If you eat the ones with the smooth leaves, they are sweet and safe. You examine the plant closely, your fingers brushing against the foliage. The leaves are smooth. You pick a handful and share them with the child at your side. The juice is tart and stains your fingers purple, a fleeting moment of sweetness in a world of grit and fiber. The modern idea of a paleo diet often focuses on massive steaks and lean meats, but for you, the reality is much more diverse and much more difficult to chew. Your jaw muscles are powerful because almost everything you eat requires a significant amount of work. You spend hours every day chewing on fibrous stalks, tough roots, and wild grains that you have gathered and lightly crushed between stones. Your teeth are worn down not by sugar and decay, but by the sheer physical labor of eating. You eat the pith of certain trees, the inner bark of others, and every edible seed you can find. By midday, the heat of the sun is pressing down on your shoulders. You find a fallen log, its bark peeling away in long gray strips. You use your flint knife to pry back the wood, revealing a hidden world of movement. Grubs, fat and white, wriggle in the damp darkness. To a person from the future, this might seem revolting, but to you, it is a jackpot of fat and protein. You pick them up one by one and eat them raw. They are creamy and nutty, a vital source of energy that requires no fire and no long chase. You also gather a handful of crickets and a few snails, tucking them into a leather pouch. Every small life you take is a tribute to your own continued existence. The search for food is a constant education. You know the cycles of the moon and the shifts in the wind because they tell you when the salmon will run in the nearby stream or when the hazelnuts will finally fall from the trees. You are a master botanist without a single book. You can identify hundreds of species of plants at a single glance, knowing which part is medicinal, which part is edible, and which part is deadly. You know that the willow bark can soothe a headache and that the sap of the pine can seal a wound. Suddenly, you hear a low whistle from one of the men further up the ridge. He has found something. You leave the roots and the berries and move toward him, your feet finding silent purchase on the rocky ground. He is pointing toward a muddy patch near a watering hole. There, pressed into the earth, is the deep, heavy print of a giant elk. It is fresh. The edges of the track are still sharp, and water hasn't yet seeped into the bottom. This is the moment where the strategy of the hunt begins. You are not just a gatherer, you are a predator. But you are a predator without claws or long fangs. You have your mind and your endurance. The group gathers, communicating in low whispers and gestures. The plan is simple but exhausting. It is a persistence hunt. You will not outrun the elk in a sprint. It is far faster than any human. Instead, you will outlast it. You begin to run. It is not a frantic dash, but a steady, rhythmic trot. You follow the tracks, reading the broken twigs and the disturbed grass. The sun is high now, and the heat is intense. This is your advantage. Humans are among the only animals on Earth that can sweat efficiently over their entire bodies. As the elk runs, its core temperature begins to rise. Cannot pant fast enough to cool down while it is moving. You, however, stay relatively cool as the breeze evaporates the moisture from your skin. Hours pass. Your legs ache, and your lungs burn, but you do not stop. You are a collective machine, a pack of humans moving as one. Every time the elk stops to rest in the shade, you appear on the horizon, forcing it to move again. You are denying it the chance to recover. You see the animal ahead now. Its head is hanging low, and foam is flecking its mouth. It is stumbling. The majestic creature is being defeated by the relentless heat and your unyielding will. When the moment finally comes, it is quick. A well-aimed spear, tipped with a blade of flint that you spent hours chipping into a lethal point, finds its mark. The elk falls. There is no cheering, only a profound sense of relief and a deep, quiet respect. You approach the fallen animal and offer a silent thanks. This single life will sustain your family for weeks. The work, however, is far from over. You must process the kill before the scent of blood brings larger, more dangerous predators like the cave lion or the short-faced bear. You use your stone scrapers to peel back the hide. The blade is as sharp as a modern scalpel, slicing through the connective tissue with ease. Nothing goes to waste. The meat is carved into strips, some to be eaten tonight, some to be dried in the sun or smoked over a fire for the lean days ahead. The marrow is cracked from the bones, a rich, fatty delicacy that is prized above almost everything else. The brains will be used to tan the hide, and the sinew will be saved for thread. As evening approaches, you return to your camp, burdened with the weight of the meat and the gathered plants. The fire is built up, the flames licking at the darkening sky. This is the heart of your world. You sit around the warmth, the smell of roasting meat filling the air. You toss the tubers you gathered earlier into the hot ash at the edge of the fire. When the meal is ready, it is a communal affair. You do not have your own plate. You tear off pieces of meat with your hands and teeth, passing them to those who are too old or too young to hunt for themselves. You use a flat stone to grind some wild seeds into a rough paste, mixing it with water and cooking it on a hot rock. It is a dense, smoky flatbread that tastes of wood smoke and the earth. You eat until your stomach is full, a rare and wonderful sensation. You feel the warmth of the calories spreading through your limbs, repairing the damage of the day's long trek. You look around the circle of faces, illuminated by the flickering orange light. This diet, this constant struggle for sustenance, has shaped your body and your mind. It has made you lean, strong, and incredibly resilient. You are not just eating to survive, you are eating the very essence of the wild world around you. As the stars emerge in the vast, unpolluted sky, you realize that your relationship with food is one of profound intimacy. You know where every calorie comes from. You know the cost of every meal. There is no distance between you and the source of your life. The hunger will return tomorrow, as it always does, but for tonight you are satisfied. The wild has provided, and you have proven yourself worthy of its gifts. The fire burns low, the embers glowing like the eyes of the animals that watch from the darkness, and you prepare yourself for the dreams that only a full stomach can bring. You are a part of the land, and the land is a part of you. The sun is sinking behind the jagged ridge of the valley, and for a moment, the sky turns the color of a bruised plum. You feel the temperature drop instantly. It is not just a chill. It is a weight that settles into your bones, a reminder that without the sun, you are vulnerable. For your ancestors, this was the time of greatest peril. When the light failed, the world belonged to things with better eyes and longer teeth than yours. You would huddle in the deepest recess of a limestone crevice, holding your breath, hoping the darkness would hide your scent. But tonight is different. Tonight you are not hiding from the dark. You are challenging it. In your hands you hold a dry length of willow branch and a flat piece of cedar. You have spent hours preparing these tools. You kneel on the soft earth of the cave entrance, where the wind cannot reach your small pile of tinder. This tinder is your most precious possession. It is a bird nest of dried grass, shredded inner bark, and a few scraps of dried fungus you found on a rotting log. It is bone dry and fragile as a dream. You place the tip of the willow rod into a small notch you have carved in the cedar board. You begin to spin. At first, your movements are slow and rhythmic. You are warming the wood. You feel the friction building through your palms. The smell of toasted wood begins to rise, a sharp, sweet scent that signals the coming change. You increase the speed. Your shoulders ache. Your breath comes in short, ragged bursts. You are pouring your life force into this motion. Then you see it. A tiny, thin wisp of blue smoke curls up from the notch. You do not stop. You cannot stop now. You push harder, spinning the rod until your palms burn and sweat stings your eyes. A small pile of black dust is forming at the base of the wood. It looks like nothing, just a pinch of soot. But then, a single spark catches in the dust. A tiny, glowing heart begins to beat in the center of the black pile. You gently tap the cedar board, allowing that glowing ember to fall into your nest of tinder. You lift the bundle to your lips. You do not blow hard. You whisper to it. Your breath is soft, a steady stream of life. The glow brightens. It turns from a dull orange to a fierce, pulsing red. The smoke thickens, turning white and fragrant. And then, with a sudden, joyous crack, a yellow tongue of flame licks upward. You have done it. You have stolen the power of the sun and brought it into the shadows. This is the moment everything changes for you. This is the mastery of the hearth. For hundreds of thousands of years, your kind could only scavenge fire. You had to wait for the lightning to strike or for the volcano to weep lava. You had to carry those precious embers in hollowed-out horns or wrapped in green leaves, terrified that a rainstorm or a careless moment would extinguish the flame and leave you in the cold. But now you are a creator. You have the technology to summon light from wood and motion. As you feed the flame with small twigs and then larger branches of oak, the cave transforms. The damp, oppressive walls that once felt like a tomb now glow with a warm, golden hue. The shadows dance. The jagged edges of the rock soften. You look around and see the faces of your kin. The firelight reaches into their eyes, reflecting back a spark of intelligence and shared purpose. The hearth becomes the center of your universe. It is the first thing you tend to in the morning and the last thing you check at night. It is more than just a source of heat. It is your shield. Outside the circle of light, you can hear the sounds of the night. You hear the low, guttural growl of a cave lion and the rhythmic crunch of gravel under the paws of a giant short-faced bear. In the past, those sounds would have frozen your blood. Now, you look toward the darkness and see the fire reflecting in the eyes of the predators. They circle, they sniff the air, but they do not come closer. They fear the bite of the flame. The fire has created a sanctuary, a private world where the laws of the wild are temporarily suspended. You pull a haunch of deer meat toward you. In the days of your distant ancestors, you would have eaten this raw, tearing at the tough muscle with your teeth, spending hours chewing and even longer trying to digest the gristle. But now you have a better way. You impale the meat on a sharpened stick and hold it over the coals. The transformation is miraculous. The fat begins to sizzle and drip, hissing as it hits the glowing embers. The smell is intoxicating. It is the smell of civilization. As the heat breaks down the tough proteins and fibers, the meat becomes tender and savory. This is not just about taste. This is about survival. By cooking your food, you are essentially pre-digesting it. Your body can now extract far more calories with far less effort. This shift in diet is what will fuel the evolution of your species. Because you no longer need a massive, heavy digestive system to process raw, fibrous plants and tough meat, your gut can shrink. The energy that used to go into digestion can now be diverted to your most expensive organ, your brain. Every time you sit by this fire and eat a cooked meal, you are literally growing the intelligence that will one day take your descendants to the stars. But the hearth provides more than just physical nourishment. Provides social glue. As the night deepens, you and your family huddle closer to the warmth. The fire demands that you sit in a circle. In the daylight, you were scattered, foraging, hunting, and scraping hides. You were individuals working in parallel. But here, in the amber glow of the hearth, you are a tribe. You begin to speak. Perhaps it starts with simple gestures and grunts, but over thousands of generations, this becomes the birthplace of language. You tell the story of the hunt. You use your hands to mimic the way the mammoth turned its head. You point to the flickers of light on the cave wall, where the shadows of your movements look like the great beasts of the plains. You are not just sharing information. You are sharing myths. You are creating a shared history. The firelight also extends your day. Before fire, your life was dictated by the rising and setting of the sun. When the sun went down, you were effectively blind and useless. Now, you have gained several extra hours of productivity and connection. You use this time to fashion better tools. You nap flint by the firelight, the rhythmic clinking of stone on stone providing a soundtrack to the evening. You sew skins together with bone needles, making the clothing that will allow you to push further north into the ice. You look at the white ash forming at the edges of the fire. You realize that this fire is a living thing. It needs to be fed, it needs to breathe, and it can die if neglected. You assign roles. Someone must stay awake to watch the embers. Someone must gather the wood during the day. This division of labor is the foundation of a complex society. You are learning to trust one another with the very thing that keeps the group alive. As you drift towards sleep, wrapped in the furs of the animals you have hunted, you watch the embers pulse. The cave is quiet now, save for the occasional crackle of the wood and the steady breathing of your family. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and roasted earth. You feel a profound sense of security. You have conquered the cold. You have tamed the dark. The hearth is no longer just a hole in the ground where wood burns. It is a home. It is a laboratory. It is a temple. You are the master of the flame, and with this gift, you have stepped out of the cycle of the animal kingdom and into the first dawn of the human story. The world outside is still vast, cold, and dangerous, but here, within the reach of the orange glow, you are the master of your own destiny. You close your eyes, the warmth of the hearth still radiating against your skin, knowing that tomorrow, you will wake up and start the fire again. You sit on a flat, sun-warmed ledge of limestone, your legs tucked beneath you. In your left hand, you cradle a heavy, gray nodule of flint, the size of a large grapefruit. In your right, you hold a smooth, water-worn hammerstone, selected from the riverbed specifically for its weight and density. This is not just a rock. To you, this is the raw potential of survival. This is the difference between a successful hunt and a week of hunger. This is the technology that defines your world. You do not think of yourself as a caveman, or even as primitive. You are an engineer, a craftsman, and a master of the physical properties of the earth. To understand your life, one must understand the stone. It is the foundation of everything. You look at the flint nodule, rotating it slowly in the morning light. You are looking for the grain, the hidden fractures, and the perfect angle of attack. You are looking for a platform. When you strike, you are not just hitting a rock with another rock. You are practicing a physics experiment that your ancestors have been refining for over 2 million years. You bring the hammerstone down with a sharp, controlled snap. There is a crisp, metallic ring that echoes off the cliff face behind you. A thin, translucent flake of flint shears off the core and falls onto the leather apron draped over your thighs. You pick it up. The edges are sharper than any steel razor you could imagine. This flake is so thin that light passes through its honey-colored edges, yet it is strong enough to slice through the thickest bison hide like it is water. This is the Oldowan style, the oldest method known to your kind. Simple, direct, and effective. But your people have moved beyond the simple flake. You begin to work the core further, turning it over and over. You are no longer just looking for a quick edge. You are shaping a tool with a specific form in mind. This is the Acheulean hand axe. It is a teardrop-shaped masterpiece of symmetry and utility. To create it, you must hold the finished image of the tool in your mind before you even begin the first strike. This is what sets you apart from the creatures of the forest. You can envision the future. You can see the tool hidden inside the stone. As you strike the edges, you feel the vibration travel up your arm. It is a stinging, rhythmic sensation that tells you exactly how the stone is responding. If you hit too hard, the core will shatter. If you hit too softly, the flake will not detach properly, leaving a ruinous hinge fracture that could spoil the entire piece. You use a piece of deer antler now, a soft hammer, to fine-tune the edges. The antler absorbs some of the shock, allowing you to peel off long, thin scales of stone. This is pressure flaking. It is the height of precision. By the time you are finished, the hand axe is a multi-tool. You can use the heavy base to crack marrow bones, the sharp sides to butcher meat, and the pointed tip to dig for tubers or punch holes in leather. It fits perfectly in the palm of your hand, an extension of your own bone and muscle. But technology does not stop at the edge of the stone. You look toward the hearth where several of the older men and women are gathered. They are not working with flint today. They are working with bone and antler. For a long time, bone was just waste, something to be gnawed on and thrown to the side. But your people have discovered that bone is a marvelous material. It is more flexible than stone and less prone to shattering under tension. You watch as a woman grinds a sliver of reindeer leg bone against a coarse piece of sandstone. The sound is a constant, rhythmic rasping that sets your teeth on edge. She is making a needle. This is perhaps the most revolutionary piece of technology your tribe possesses. It is small, no longer than your finger, with a tiny, delicate eye carved into one end using a flint microlith. With this needle, your world has changed. No longer do you simply drape heavy hides over your shoulders and hope they stay put. Now you can sew. You can create fitted clothing that traps a layer of warm air against your skin. You can make waterproof boots and snug mittens. You can stitch together the walls of a tent or the carrying bags for your gathered nuts and berries. The needle is the reason your tribe can survive the bitter winters that would have killed your ancestors. Beside her, a man is working on a harpoon head. He uses a sharp flint burin to carve deep grooves into a piece of caribou antler. He is creating barbs, angled backward so that once the point enters a fish or a seal, it will not come out. This represents a massive shift in how you interact with the world. You are no longer just a scavenger or a simple hunter of land animals. You are a predator of the rivers and the coasts. You are using complex geometry to ensure your dinner cannot escape. Then there is the chemistry. You look over at the small fire built away from the main camp. A thick, black smoke rises from a clay-covered pit. Inside, birch bark is being heated in the absence of air. This is a slow, careful process that produces birch tar, the world's first synthetic glue. You see a hunter preparing his spear. He takes a sharpened flint point and fits it into a notch at the end of a long wooden shaft. But he does not just tie it with sinew. He smears the black, sticky tar into the joint. Once it cools and hardens, it will be as tough as the wood itself. He then wraps it tightly with wet animal tendons. As the tendons dry, they shrink, binding the stone and wood together in a grip that no amount of force can break. This is a composite tool. It is a leap in engineering that combines the hardness of stone, the flexibility of wood, and the adhesive power of early chemistry. You stand up and stretch, feeling the grit of stone dust on your skin. You walk toward the edge of the clearing where a younger boy is struggling with his own piece of flint. He is frustrated, his strikes are erratic, and he has already cut his thumb. You sit beside him and place your hand over his. You show him how to support the stone, how to use his thigh as a shock absorber. This is how technology truly evolves. It is not just the objects themselves, but the passing of knowledge. The language you use to describe the stone, the stories you tell about the great tool makers of the past, and the patient instruction of the young. This is the social software that runs your world. You look at the tools scattered around the camp. There are scrapers for cleaning hides, awls for boring holes, hammers for crushing ochre, and sickles for harvesting wild grasses. Each one represents a problem solved. Your life is not a desperate struggle against a cruel nature. It is a series of elegant solutions to the challenges of your environment. You have mastered the fire, you have mastered the stone, and you have mastered the very bones of the animals you hunt. As the sun climbs higher, you feel a sense of pride. You run your thumb along the edge of your finished hand axe. It is cool and smooth, a testament to your skill and your heritage. You are part of a long line of innovators who looked at a mountain and saw a workshop. You do not fear the wild because you carry the tools to bend it to your will. You are the master of flint and bone. And with these things, you have built a world that will endure long after the stones themselves have returned to the earth. You pack your tools into your leather pouch, feeling the weight of them against your hip. They are heavy, but it is a good weight. It is the weight of security. It is the weight of the future. You turn away from the ledge and head back toward the heart of the camp, ready to use what you have made. Your mind is already turning toward the next project, the next improvement, the next step in the endless evolution of your kind. The stone is ready, the bone is waiting, and you have all the time in the world to perfect them. The air at dawn is a physical weight against your skin. It is not just cold. It is a sharp and stinging presence that reminds you that you are alive and that you are hungry. You stand at the edge of a high ridge and look out over the valley. The world below is shrouded in a thick and milky fog. You can hear the world before you can see it. There is the distant and rhythmic thud of heavy feet moving through the mud. There is the sound of breaking branches and the low and rumbling groan of an animal that weighs as much as a small hill. You are not alone on this ridge. Behind you and beside you are the men and women who make up your hunting party. You do not need to speak. You have lived with these people every day of your life. You know the way they breathe. You know the way they move when they are nervous and the way they steady themselves when it is time to act. You check the binding on your spear one last time. The flint head is cold and lethal and gray. It is the most important thing you own. Without it, you are just another primate. With it, you are the apex predator of the Pleistocene. You begin to descend the ridge. Your feet move with a practiced silence that you learned before you could even speak in full sentences. You know where to place your weight. You avoid the dry twigs that would snap like a bone in the silence. You avoid the loose stones that would clatter down the slope. You are a shadow moving through the mist. As the sun begins to burn away the fog, the shape of your target emerges. It is a woolly mammoth. To see one up close is to realize how small you truly are. It stands nearly 13 feet tall at the shoulder. Its tusks are long and curved and golden in the morning light. They look like the ribs of the earth itself. The animal is covered in a thick and shaggy coat of dark brown hair that sways as it moves. It is beautiful and it is terrifying, and it is exactly what your family needs to survive the coming winter. This is the high-stakes game of the hunt. You are not just looking for a meal. You are looking for a miracle. A single mammoth provides enough meat to feed your entire tribe for months. Provides skins for tents and hair for weaving and bones for building. It is a walking warehouse of survival. But the mammoth does not want to die. It is intelligent and it is powerful and it has a memory that rivals your own. If you make a mistake, you will not just go hungry. You will be crushed into the earth by a foot the size of a boulder. You will be tossed through the air by a tusk that could pierce a tree trunk. The stakes are absolute. It is life or it is death. You signal to the others. You use hand gestures that are centuries old. One group will circle around to the far side of the animal. Another will stay back and wait for the signal. You are part of the main force that will drive the beast toward the trap. You feel the adrenaline begin to flood your system. Your heart is a drum in your chest. Your vision becomes narrow and sharp. This is what you were built for. This is why your legs are long and your lungs are large and your hands are capable of gripping a spear with incredible force. The hunt is rarely a quick affair. Sometimes it is a marathon that lasts for days. You are a persistence hunter. This is the great secret of the human race. You are not the fastest creature on the plains. You are not the strongest, but you are the most stubborn. You have the ability to sweat and to regulate your body temperature in a way that the mammoth cannot. When the sun gets high and the heat begins to rise, the mammoth starts to struggle. It has to stop and rest to cool down its massive body. You do not. You keep coming. You follow the tracks. You follow the scent. You follow the flattened grass. Every time the mammoth thinks it has found safety, you appear on the horizon. You are a relentless and unstoppable force. You are the nightmare that never ends. You wear the animal down until its muscles are heavy and its breath comes in ragged gasps. But today you have a different plan. You have spent weeks preparing a pit trap in a narrow pass. You have dug deep into the frozen earth and covered the hole with branches and thin layers of sod and snow. It is a masterpiece of engineering and deception. Your job now is to guide the giant into that narrow space. You begin to make noise. You shout and you bang your spears against your shields. The mammoth turns its massive head. Its small and dark eyes find you. It lets out a trumpet call that vibrates in your very teeth. It is a sound of pure and ancient rage. The ground shakes as the beast begins to charge. You run. You do not run in a straight line. You weave through the boulders and the scrub brush. You lead the mammoth exactly where you want it to go. You can hear the crashing of the brush behind you. You can feel the heat of the animal as it gains on you. The smell of musk and wet fur is overwhelming. You reach the mouth of the pass and you veer off to the side at the last possible second. You scramble up the rocky walls. The mammoth does not stop, cannot stop its own momentum. It thunders into the pass and then the world falls away. There is a sound of cracking wood and a heavy and sickening thud. The earth itself seems to groan as the mammoth falls into the pit. The silence that follows is brief. Then the real work begins. You and your tribe swarm the edge of the pit. This is the most dangerous moment. A trapped and wounded mammoth is a whirlwind of destruction. You must be quick and you must be precise. You lean over the edge and you thrust your spears with everything you have. You aim for the soft spots behind the shoulder where the heart and lungs are hidden. You feel the resistance of the thick hide and then the sudden give as the blade sinks deep. The animal struggles and it fights, but it is trapped. Eventually the light begins to fade from those ancient eyes. The great legs stop kicking. The silence returns to the valley. You stand there at the edge of the pit and you breathe. You are covered in sweat and mud and the hot and copper-smelling blood of the beast. You look at your companions. Some are laughing with relief. Some are weeping. Some are already looking toward the horizon to make sure no other predators were drawn by the noise. You feel a profound sense of gratitude. You do not view this animal as a mere object. It was a king of the world, and it has given its life so that you may continue yours. There is a deep and spiritual connection in this moment. You will use every single part of this creature. You will honor its strength by surviving. The work of butchering is long and exhausting. You use flint knives that are sharper than any metal blade. You peel back the heavy hide. You carve away the thick and fatty meat. You work until your hands are cramped and your back aches. You eat small pieces of the raw meat as you work to keep your energy up. It tastes of iron and salt and life. You look at the massive pile of resources and you know that your children will be warm this winter. Your elders will be fed. The stories of this hunt will be told around the fire for generations. You will paint the image of this mammoth on the walls of your cave so that those who come after you will know what happened here. As the sun begins to set, you start the long process of carrying the meat back to the camp. It is a heavy and grueling task, but your spirit is light. You have played the high-stakes game and you have won. You have proven that a group of small and fragile hairless apes can bring down a giant. You have proven that through cooperation and through strategy and through sheer and stubborn will you can master the world around you. The hunt is over, but the survival of your people is guaranteed for another season. You walk back through the fading light and the weight of the meat on your shoulders feels like the weight of the future itself. It is a heavy burden, but it is one that you carry with pride. You are a hunter. You are a survivor. You are a part of the great and ongoing story of the earth. You look up at the first stars of the evening and you realize that as long as you have your tribe and your tools and your courage, you have nothing to fear from the dark. You are home and you are alive, and that is the greatest victory of all. You step across the threshold of the cave mouth, leaving the biting wind of the tundra behind you. As the temperature rises, the smell hits you first. It is not just the smell of smoke, but a complex, layered scent of dried herbs, rendering fat, the musk of well-worn furs, and the earthy mineral tang of damp stone. This is home. It is not merely a hole in the earth. It is a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering and social design, a place where the wild world is finally, if only temporarily, held at bay. To understand what it was like to be a caveman, you have to discard the idea that these people lived in chaotic, dirty piles of rubble. When you walk into your living space, you are walking into a carefully curated environment where every inch of floor space has a purpose. Your eyes begin to adjust to the flickering amber light. The center of your world is the hearth. It is not just a campfire. It is the heartbeat of the home. You look down at the fire pit, which has been meticulously excavated into the cave floor. It is lined with flat river stones that have been hauled from the valley below. These stones serve a vital purpose beyond just containing the embers. They act as thermal batteries. Throughout the evening, they soak up the intense heat of the flames, and long after the last log has turned to white ash, those stones will continue to radiate a gentle, pulsing warmth into the air, keeping the chill of the deep night from seeping into your bones. You notice how the smoke rises in a predictable, elegant ribbon toward the ceiling. This was no accident of nature. When your group first scouted this limestone shelter, you tested the airflow. You chose this specific spot because of a natural chimney effect in the rock formations that draws the acrid fumes up and out, leaving the air near the floor clear and breathable. Designing a home in the Paleolithic meant mastering the invisible currents of the air. If you placed the hearth too deep, you would suffocate in the dark. If you placed it too close to the entrance, the wind would snatch the heat away and leave you shivering. You have found the sweet spot, the golden zone where the light reaches the walls but the wind cannot reach the flame. As you move deeper into the space, you see that the floor is not just bare dirt. You have layered it with insulating materials. In the sleeping areas, you have spread thick mats of dried seagrass and aromatic pine boughs. These do more than just provide a soft cushion. The pine needles release a fresh scent that masks the smell of the refuse pile, and certain herbs you have gathered, like wild mint or yarrow, help to discourage the biting insects that try to hitch a ride on your furs. Over these natural mattresses, You have laid the heavy, decorative pelts of the great animals your family has mastered. A massive cave bear skin, thick and dense, serves as the primary carpet in the social area. It is a trophy, yes, but more importantly, it is a barrier between your warm body and the frozen heart of the mountain. You look to your left into the area that functions as your workshop. Here, the floor is littered with tiny, razor-sharp flakes of flint. This is where the light of the fire is brightest, allowing the toolmakers to see the fine grains of the stone. There is an order here that would surprise a modern observer. The heavy hammerstones are kept in one corner, tucked away so no one trips on them in the dark. A pile of raw nodules, the high-quality chert you traded 4 or traveled days to find, sits ready for tomorrow's work. This is the industrial zone of the home, separated from the sleeping quarters to keep the sharp stone shards away from bare feet and soft bedding. Further back, where the cave walls begin to narrow and the shadows grow long and heavy, is the storage area. This is the coldest part of the house, a natural refrigerator. You see large flat stones covering small pits dug into the floor. Inside these pits, wrapped in leather and packed with cool earth, are the remains of the last hunt. Dried strips of venison, bladders filled with rendered fat, and baskets of hard, starchy tubers gathered in the autumn. This is your insurance policy against the lean days. You walk past them, feeling the drop in temperature as the stone walls close in. But what if you are not in a region of limestone and caves? You imagine the homes of your cousins out on the vast treeless steppes. They do not have the luxury of mountainsides, so they have become the ultimate architects of the plains. You can picture those mammoth bone huts, structures so alien and majestic they look like something from a dream. Instead of timber, which is scarce, they use the massive, curving tusks of the woolly mammoth to create a domed framework. They use the heavy jawbones of the great beasts to create a circular foundation, stacking them in a decorative, interlocking pattern that provides stability against the howling gales. Over the skeletal frame, they stretch dozens of mammoth hides, sewn together with sinew and weighed down by more bones to prevent the wind from stripping the roof away. Inside those bone houses, the atmosphere is even more intimate, the smell of grease and old leather creating a cocoon of survival in a world of ice. Back in your own cave, you reach out and touch the wall. It is not just a wall to you. It is a canvas and a library. In the flickering light, you see the silhouettes of hands pressed against the stone, outlined in red ochre. You see the charcoal sketches of the deer and the bison. These are not just decorations. They are the soul of the home. They turn a geological feature into a human place. When you see those marks, you know who lived here before you. You feel the continuity of your lineage. This is where the first interior design was born, the impulse to make a space reflect the identity of the people within it. You sit down by the fire, feeling the ache in your muscles begin to fade. The social geography of the home becomes clear as the other members of your band join you. There is a hierarchy to the seating, though it is unspoken. The elders sit where the backrest of the rock is most comfortable. The children huddle in the warmest spots, their laughter echoing off the high ceiling. This circular arrangement around the hearth is the blueprint for all human architecture to follow. It is the original living room. Here, in the glow of the domestic hearth, the terrors of the night vanish. The saber-toothed cats and the looming glaciers are outside, but inside, there is warmth, there is food, and there is the safety of the pack. You look at the way the light plays across the ceiling. You have hung bundles of drying herbs and strips of sinew from small crevices in the rock. These hanging stores are the decorations of necessity. Every object has been chosen for its utility, but over time, they have taken on a beauty of their own. The polished bone needles tucked into a leather pouch, the carved stone lamps filled with animal oil that provide portable light for the deep recesses of the cave, the smoothed wooden bowls that feel like silk in your hands. This is the comfort of the first homes. As the evening progresses, you realize that the design of this home is what allowed the human spirit to flourish. By mastering the interior environment, you freed your mind from the constant, crushing pressure of survival. In the safety of these walls, you have the time to think, to plan for the next season, and to tell the stories that define your people. The cave is not a prison. It is a fortress. It is a sanctuary. It is the first place on Earth where a biological organism decided that the world as it was found was not enough, and that through ingenuity and labor, a better, warmer world could be built inside the stone. You lay your head back against a fur-covered rest, watching the embers pulse like a dying star. The hearthstones are hot now, and the air is thick with the peace of a well-managed household. Outside, the world remains a place of ice and shadow, but here, within the carefully designed borders of your domestic world, you are the master of your environment. You are not just surviving. You are at home. This feeling of security, of a space carved out specifically for your comfort and the safety of those you love, is the greatest invention of your age. It is the foundation upon which every city, every palace, and every quiet house of the future will be built. You close your eyes, listening to the rhythmic breathing of your family, safe within the stone heart of the world. You wake before the sun has fully claimed the sky. The cave is cold, and the air is thick with the smell of old smoke and huddling bodies. In this dim, blue light, you look at the person sleeping beside you. You want to tell them about the dream you had, a strange vision of a golden stag that turned into birds and flew into the sun. But as you open your mouth, you realize the magnitude of your struggle. You have the feeling, the vivid image burned into your mind, but you do not have the labels. You do not have a word for stag or for gold, or for the concept of a dream itself. You are standing on the precipice of a revolution that will change everything about what it means to be human. But for now, you are a traveler in a world of profound, heavy silence. For a long time, your world has been one of gestures and echoes. When you want to show your companion where the water is, you point. When you want to warn the group of a prowling leopard, you mimic its low, guttural snarl and widen your eyes in fear. Your body is your primary tool for communication. You use the shrug of your shoulders, the tilt of your head, and the frantic waving of your arms to bridge the gap between your mind and theirs. It is an intimate, physical way of living. You are constantly reading the micro-expressions on the faces of your kin. You know the exact twitch of a lip that signals irritation, and the specific way a brow furrows when someone is confused. You are masters of empathy because you have to be. Without words, you must feel what the other feels to understand what they need. But something is shifting inside you. It is a slow, biological creeping that has taken hundreds of generations to reach this point. Deep in your throat, your larynx has descended. Your tongue has become more flexible, more capable of dancing against the roof of your mouth and your teeth. You are beginning to realize that you can make sounds that are not just copies of nature. You are not just growling like a bear or whistling like the wind anymore. You are starting to play with vowels and consonants. You find that a short, sharp burst of air through your lips can represent something specific. A low hum can mean comfort. A rhythmic clicking can mean hurry. You sit by the morning fire, poking at the embers with a stick. Your friend sits across from you, scraping a piece of flint against a bone. You make a sound, a specific melodic rise in your voice that you have used before when referring to the fire. Your friend looks up. They recognize the sound. They repeat it back to you, perhaps slightly different, but the connection is made. In that moment, the fire is no longer just a hot, flickering thing that exists in the physical world. It has been captured. It has a name. You have pulled it out of the chaotic landscape of reality and placed it into a shared mental space. This is the birth of the symbol. This is the moment when a sound becomes a vessel for an idea. Think about the power this gives you. Before language, your knowledge was trapped in the present. You could show a child how to knap a stone tool by having them watch you, but you could not explain why you chose that specific rock over another. You could not tell them that 3 days' walk to the north, there is a vein of obsidian that breaks like glass. Now, with the slow assembly of language, you can transmit the past into the future. You can sit in the safety of the cave and describe a place you visited years ago. You can warn the young ones about the thin ice on the river that you saw last winter. You are no longer limited by what you can see right in front of your eyes. You are beginning to build a library of the mind. This new tool of language transforms your hunts. Imagine you are out on the tall grass of the savannah. You are tracking a herd of bison. In the past, you relied on silent hand signals and gut instinct to coordinate your movements. It was effective, but it was limited. Now, as you crouch in the brush, you can whisper a plan. You can assign roles. You can tell one person to circle around the eastern ridge while another waits in the gully. You can discuss the what-if scenarios. What if the herd turns? What if a lion intervenes? Language allows you to simulate the future. It allows you to plan, to strategize, and to outthink animals that are much stronger and faster than you are. You are no longer just a predator, you are a strategist. But the most profound change happens in the evening, when the work of survival is done. This is when the silence used to be the heaviest. Now, the air is filled with the low murmur of voices. You are discovering the joy of gossip. Sounds trivial, but for your tribe, it is the glue that holds you together. You talk about who is reliable and who is lazy. You discuss who shared their meat and who hid it. Through words, you are building a map of social trust. You are defining the rules of your society. You are deciding what is right and what is wrong, not just through brute force, but through agreement. As the weeks and months pass, your vocabulary grows. You find names for the different types of clouds that bring different types of rain. You find names for the herbs that soothe the fever and the roots that cramp the stomach. You begin to tell stories. They start simple, perhaps a retelling of the day the giant elk was brought down. But as your language becomes more complex, so do the tales. You start to explain the world. Why does the sun disappear at night? Where does the wind go when it stops blowing? You create myths. You talk about the great ancestors who lived in the stars and the spirits that inhabit the trees. Language is not just a way to talk to others, it is a way to talk to yourself. As you walk alone through the forest, you find that you are thinking in sounds. You are narrating your own life. This internal monologue is a new sensation. It gives you a sense of self that is distinct from the world around you. You are no longer just a part of the forest, you are an observer of it. You can reflect on your own choices. You can feel regret for something you said or did yesterday. You can feel hope for what you might find tomorrow. Your inner world is becoming as vast and as complicated as the outer one. You look around the cave at your family. You see the children playing, mimicking the sounds the adults make. They are learning faster than you ever did. For them, the world will always have names. They will never know the heavy, wordless isolation that you remember from your own youth. They are born into a world of stories. You realize that your words are a form of immortality. When you are gone, the stories you told and the names you gave to the hills and the streams will live on in their mouths. You are weaving a web of meaning that will stretch across generations. The sun finally clears the horizon, flooding the cave with gold. You stand up and stretch your aching limbs. Your friend looks at you and makes that specific sound for the sun, adding a new inflection that means rising. You smile and nod. You walk out into the light, and for the first time, the world does not feel like a chaotic blur of sensations. It feels like a book that you are finally learning how to read. Every bird call, every rustle of the leaves, and every shadow on the ground is something you can now describe, share, and remember. You are a caveman, yes, but you are something more now. You are a storyteller. You are a thinker. You are no longer alone in the silence. The echoes of your voice are starting to fill the world, and they will not stop for tens of thousands of years. As you take your first step into the day, you realize that the most powerful tool you carry is not the flint knife at your belt, but the quiet, rhythmic pulse of words forming in your throat. You are standing at the mouth of a narrow opening in a limestone cliff. The air outside is biting, smelling of frost and the sharp, resinous scent of pine needles, but the air drifting up from the darkness below is different. It is heavy, damp, and smells of wet stone and ancient earth. You have left the communal fire behind. The laughter and the rhythmic storytelling of your kin have faded into a dull murmur, replaced by the sound of your own heartbeat and the steady, rhythmic drip of water somewhere deep in the belly of the mountain. In your hand, you carry a small stone lamp. It is a simple thing, a hollowed-out piece of sandstone filled with rendered animal fat, with a wick made of dried moss. The flame is small, a tiny, flickering amber tongue that licks at the encroaching shadows. It does not provide much light, just enough to see the next few steps. Yet in this absolute blackness, it feels like you are carrying a captured star. As you descend, the ceiling drops. You have to crouch, then crawl, feeling the cold, slick mud against your knees and palms. This is not a place for living. No one sleeps here, no one cooks here, and no one works their flint here. This is a place of transition. You are moving away from the world of the sun and the wind, and into the world of the spirits. You are moving into the womb of the earth. Finally, the tunnel opens up. You stand and lift your lamp high. The flickering light catches a wall of smooth, pale stone, and for a moment, your breath catches in your throat. You are not alone. Emerging from the darkness, a great bison seems to charge toward you. Its hump is massive, its horns sharp and curved, its eyes wide and wild. But it does not move. It is frozen in the rock, born from a combination of charred wood and iron-rich earth. Beside it, a herd of horses gallops across a limestone sky, their manes flowing in a wind that does not exist in this still, silent chamber. This is the birth of the human imagination. This is the moment when our ancestors stopped merely surviving and started reflecting. You are standing in the middle of a revolution, one that did not involve tools of stone or bone, but tools of the mind. You reach into a small leather pouch at your waist. Inside, you have prepared your materials. There is a chunk of red ochre, a soft, clay-like mineral you found miles away in a dry riverbed. There is a piece of black charcoal from last night's fire. And there is a small hollowed-out bone, the wing bone of a large bird, which you will use as a pipe. You find a clean patch of wall. It is not perfectly flat. It has curves and bulges, ridges and hollows. To your eyes, these are not imperfections. You look at a swelling in the rock and you see the shoulder of a mammoth. You see a long, thin crack and you see the spine of a deer. The rock is already speaking to you, showing you the spirits that dwell within it. Your job is not to create something new, but to pull these spirits out into the light. You begin by grinding a piece of the red ochre against a flat stone, mixing the fine dust with a little bit of water and perhaps a smear of animal fat to help it stick. You dip your fingers into the cool, slick paste. The sensation is visceral. This is the earth itself, the red blood of the mountain, and you are about to use it to leave a mark that will outlast your life, the lives of your children, and the lives of people you will never meet. You press your left hand firmly against the cold stone. You take the hollow bone in your right hand, fill your mouth with the liquid ochre, and blow. A fine mist of red pigment sprays across the back of your hand, coating the rock around your fingers. When you pull your hand away, a ghostly silhouette remains, a negative image, a hand of light surrounded by a halo of blood-red earth. You look at it, and a strange shiver runs down your spine. In the flickering light of your lamp, the hand seems to twitch. It is a signature. It is a scream into the void. It says, I was here. I am alive. I have a soul. Tens of thousands of years from now, someone might stand in this exact spot and see that hand, and for a fleeting second, your life and theirs will touch across the abyss of time. But why are you doing this? Is it for luck in the hunt? Some believe that by capturing the image of the bison on the wall, you are capturing its spirit, making it easier to find and kill when you return to the surface. Perhaps. But as you look at the paintings around you, you realize it is more complex than that. Many of the animals depicted are not the ones you eat most often. You eat reindeer and small game, yet the walls are filled with lions, rhinos, and bears. These are symbols of power, of beauty, and of the terrifying majesty of the natural world. You move to another section of the wall. Here, the paintings are not just static images. You have learned a trick from the elders. You draw a bison with 8 legs instead of 4. It looks strange in the daylight, but here, in the shifting, dancing light of your fat lamp, something magical happens. As the flame flickers, the bison seems to blur. Its legs appear to move. It is the world's first cinema. You are creating a story that breathes. The silence of the cave amplifies every sound. The scrape of your charcoal against the rock sounds like a roar. The drip of water sounds like a drum. You begin to hum, a low, guttural vibration that resonates in your chest. The shape of the cave acts as an instrument, catching your voice and bouncing it back at you, layering sound upon sound until the air itself feels thick with power. You realize that art is not just about the eyes. It is about the whole body. The cold of the stone, the smell of the fat lamp, the taste of the ochre in your mouth, and the rhythm of your breath. It is a ritual. It is a way of making sense of a world that is often cruel and unpredictable. Outside, the winter is long, and the predators are hungry. But here, in the dark, you are the master of your own universe. You are the creator. You spend hours in the darkness, losing track of time. In the cave, there is no day or night. There is only the work. You use your fingers to smudge the charcoal, creating soft shadows that give the animals depth and weight. You use a brush made of animal hair to paint the fine details of a horse's muzzle. You use the natural contours of the rock to make the animals look like they are emerging from the very heart of the mountain. As you finish, you step back. The lamp is burning low, the fat nearly exhausted. In the dying light, the gallery of shadows seems to pulse with life. You see the efforts of those who came before you. Some of these paintings are hundreds of years old, layered one on top of the other. You have added your voice to a conversation that has been going on for generations. You feel a profound sense of peace. You are more than a hunter. You are more than a gatherer. You are a storyteller. You have taken the raw materials of your survival and transformed them into something that has no practical use, yet feels more important than food itself. You have created beauty in a place where no sun ever shines. You begin the long climb back to the surface. You crawl through the narrow gaps, your muscles aching, your skin stained with red and black. As you reach the mouth of the cave, the pale light of dawn is just beginning to gray the horizon. The world outside is exactly as you left it. The wind still bites, and the mountains still loom, indifferent to your presence. But you are different. You carry the secret of the shadows within you. You look at the trees and the clouds and the distant herds, and you see them not just as things to be used, but as things to be remembered. You have discovered that while your body belongs to the earth and the cycle of life and death, your mind can create worlds that never die. As you walk back toward the rising smoke of your family's fire, you realize that the paintings will remain in the dark, silent and waiting. They do not need the sun. They exist in the space between the seen and the unseen, a testament to the moment when humanity first looked at a blank wall and saw a dream. You take your place by the fire, the red ochre still staining the creases of your palms, a silent witness to the magic you left behind in the heart of the stone. You sit in the deepening shadows of the shelter, the flickering fire casting long, dancing ghosts against the limestone walls. Outside, the wind howls across the mammoth steppe, a mournful sound that seems to carry the voices of things not entirely human. In this world, the line between the living and the dead, the hunter and the prey, and the earth and the sky is as thin as the skin of a drum. You are not just a body trying to survive the cold. You are a soul living in a world of souls. Every rock, every stream, and every gust of freezing wind has a spirit that must be spoken to, respected, and sometimes feared. As the night deepens, the atmosphere in the camp shifts. The casual chatter of the evening meal fades, replaced by a heavy, expectant silence. You look toward the back of the cave, where the light of the fire barely reaches. A figure emerges from the darkness, and for a moment, your breath catches in your throat. This is the one who walks between worlds. This is the shaman. The shaman does not look like the rest of your kin tonight. He wears a heavy cloak of wolf fur, and atop his head rests a crown of reindeer antlers that seems to scrape the very ceiling of the cave. His face is painted with white clay and charcoal, turning his features into a terrifying mask that is neither man nor beast. Around his neck hang whistles made from the hollow wing bones of swans and charms carved from the tusks of mammoths. As he moves, the small pieces of bone and shell sewn into his garment clatter together, a dry, rhythmic sound like the rattling of a snake. He carries a large circular drum, its frame made of bent wood and its surface a tightly stretched hide of a young bison. He begins to strike it. At first, the sound is slow and steady, mimicking the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. You feel the vibration deep in your chest, a resonance that seems to pull your own heart into rhythm with the drum. This is the beginning of the journey. In the mind of your people, the drum is a horse or a bird that carries the shaman into the upper and lower worlds. It is the vehicle for the soul. The shaman begins to chant in a voice that sounds like the grinding of stones and the rushing of water. He is not speaking in the common tongue. He is speaking the language of the spirits, calling out to the masters of the animals and the ancestors who watch from the stars. He begins to dance, his movements jerky and wild, imitating the leap of the deer and the prowl of the cave lion. The firelight turns him into a flickering blur of fur and shadow. You watch mesmerized. The smoke from burning herbs, perhaps mugwort or juniper, fills the air, making your head feel light and the world feel distant. The shaman is spinning now, faster and faster, his eyes rolling back in his head until only the whites show. He is entering a trance, a state of being where his physical body remains in the cave while his spirit travels far beyond the horizon of the tundra. He is going to ask the spirits where the reindeer herds have gone, or perhaps he is going to bargain for the life of a sick child or seek forgiveness for a kill that was not properly honored. This is the core of your belief system, a way of life that historians will one day call animism. To you, there is no such thing as an inanimate object. The mountain is a sleeping god. The river is a flowing life force. When you kill a mammoth, you are not just taking meat and fur. You are taking a life that was granted to you by the spirit of the mammoth. If you do not perform the proper rituals, if you do not thank the animal for its sacrifice, the spirit will grow angry and lead the rest of the herd away, leaving your people to starve. You think of the carvings you have seen, objects of power that sit in the small pouches your people carry. One of the most sacred is a figure carved from the tusk of a mammoth, a creature that is half man and half lion. It stands upright like a human, but its head is that of a powerful cave lion, with a heavy jaw and fierce, staring eyes. It is a terrifying and beautiful thing. It represents a being that exists in the dream world, a protector or a god that embodies the strength of the predator and the wisdom of the hunter. It took hundreds of hours of patient scraping and polishing with stone tools to create this figure. To your people, it was worth every second, for it is a vessel for the divine. The shaman lets out a sharp, piercing cry and collapses to the dirt, his body shaking. The drumming stops abruptly, and the silence that follows is so heavy it feels like a physical weight. No one moves. You wait, barely daring to breathe, until the shaman slowly pushes himself up. His eyes are clear now, though he looks exhausted, as if he has run for miles through the snow. He whispers a few words to the elders, and a ripple of relief goes through the group. The spirits have been heard. The hunt will be successful. The balance has been maintained. But the spiritual world is not just about the shaman and his grand rituals. It is present in the smallest, most intimate moments of your life. You think of the way you buried your brother last winter. You did not simply leave his body to the wolves. You dug a shallow pit in the frozen earth, a task that took days of backbreaking labor. You laid him to rest on his side, his knees tucked toward his chest as if he were sleeping in the womb of the earth. You covered his body in red ochre, the rusted color of blood and life, so that he would have the strength to walk in the next world. You placed his finest flint knife in his hand and draped a necklace of fox teeth around his neck. You even scattered wild flowers over him, their dried petals a promise of the spring that he would never see. You believe that he is still with you, perhaps watching from the shadows of the cave or running with the spirit herds across the celestial plains. You do not fear the dead, but you respect them, for they are the bridge between your world and the great mystery. Religion for you is not a set of books or a list of rules. It is a physical, sensory experience. It is the feel of the red ochre on your skin, the smell of the ritual smoke, and the sound of the flutes carved from bird bones that mimic the song of the wind. It is the knowledge that you are part of a vast, interconnected web of life. You are not the master of nature, but a humble participant in its grand, terrifying cycles. As the fire dies down to glowing embers, you feel a sense of profound peace. The tundra is a harsh and unforgiving place, where death can come in the form of a hidden crevasse or a sudden blizzard. But you are not alone. You have your kin, you have your ancestors, and you have the gods of the tundra to guide you. The shaman has returned from the spirit world with a promise of survival, and that is enough to carry you through the long, cold night. You wrap your furs tighter around your shoulders, listening to the rhythmic breathing of your tribe as they drift off to sleep. The antlers of the shaman are leaning against the wall, their jagged points catching the last of the red light. In the morning, you will wake and begin the hard work of living again. But you will do so with the knowledge that the invisible world is just as real as the stone beneath your feet. You close your eyes, and in your dreams, you see the Lion Man walking across the stars, his golden mane trailing like the northern lights, watching over the children of the ice as they sleep in the heart of the world. The morning light filters through the narrow mouth of the cave, casting long, wavering shadows across the stone floor. You wake not to the sound of a hunting horn or the roar of a beast, but to the soft, rhythmic grinding of stone against stone. It is a quiet, domestic sound, yet it carries the weight of life and death. You sit up, your furs sliding off your shoulders, and look toward the small fire flickering in the center of the living space. There, hunched over a flat slab of granite, is one of the elders. She is not preparing pigments for a painting or sharpening a spear. She is grinding dried leaves and roots into a fine, aromatic paste. The scent hits you then. It is bitter and sharp, like the smell of a forest after a heavy rain, mixed with something earthy and pungent. This is the scent of the Paleolithic pharmacy. It is a reminder that in this harsh world of ice and predators, you are not merely a biological machine designed to hunt and breed. You belong to a species that cares. You belong to a people who refuse to let the weak simply fade away. You look to the back of the cave, where a young man lies on a bed of soft pine boughs and mammoth hides. A few weeks ago, a bison bull turned unexpectedly during a drive, and its heavy hoof smashed into the young man's thigh. In the brutal logic of the wild, a broken femur should be a death sentence. Without the ability to run, a human cannot hunt. Without the ability to walk, a human cannot migrate with the herds. In the eyes of a wolf or a lion, he would be a liability, a drain on resources, or simply prey. But you are not a wolf. You walk over to him. He is awake, his eyes clear but shadowed by the lingering memory of pain. You notice the way his leg is bound. Lengths of straight willow would have been lashed to his limb with strips of sturdy leather, creating a primitive but effective splint. The bone has been set, pulled straight by the combined strength of the tribe's strongest men, while others held him down and whispered soothing words into his ear. It was a moment of agonizing necessity, a communal effort to mend what was shattered. As you watch, the elder approaches with the paste she has been grinding. She applies it to the swelling around the break. You recognize the ingredients because you helped gather them. There is yarrow to stop the bleeding and prevent the rot of infection. There is willow bark, which you know from experience will dull the sharp teeth of the pain when it is chewed or brewed into a tea. It contains the same chemical foundations that modern humans will one day call aspirin, but for you it is simply the gift of the trees. This is the reality of your life that history books often forget to mention. The popular image of the caveman is often one of a brutish, selfish loner, governed only by the law of the jungle. But the bones tell a different story. If you were to look forward thousands of years to the archaeologists of the future, they would find the remains of people just like this young man. They will find a skeleton in a cave in what will one day be Iraq, a man known to them as Shanidar I. This man lived to be nearly 45 years old, an ancient age for your time. When the scientists of the future examine his bones, they will be shocked. He had a massive blow to the side of his head that likely left him blind in one eye. His right arm was withered and had been amputated at the elbow, likely due to a horrific injury or a birth defect. His right leg was fractured in multiple places, and his collarbone had been broken and healed. He was, by all physical accounts, a man who could not contribute to the hunt. He could not run. He could probably barely walk. And yet, he lived for decades after his injuries. Why did he live? He lived because you and your kin carried him. You shared your meat with him when he could not catch his own. You protected him from the cold and the hyenas. You valued his presence, his memories, and his stories more than the calories it cost to keep him alive. This is the secret of human survival. It is not just our spears or our fire that made us masters of the earth. It was our compassion. It was the realization that a broken body does not mean a broken soul. You reach down and touch the young man's shoulder. His skin is warm and his pulse is steady. To keep him alive, the tribe has had to make sacrifices. While he heals, someone else must gather the extra firewood. Someone else must carry the heavy water skins from the creek. The hunters must bring back more meat to account for the mouth that cannot hunt. This is a heavy burden in a world where every gram of fat is precious. Yet no one grumbles. In your world, there is no such thing as an independent individual. You are all threads in a single tapestry. If one thread is frayed, the whole cloth is weakened. You understand instinctively that tomorrow, it could be your leg that snaps under the weight of a falling rock or your eyes that dim from an infection. You care for him today because it is the human thing to do, and because you know that when your time of weakness comes, hands will reach out of the darkness to pull you back toward the light. The elder hands the young man a piece of dried fungus. It is a birch polypore, a mushroom that grows on the white bark of the birch trees. It is tough and leathery, but it contains compounds that kill the worms that live in the gut. Medicine in your world is not just about fixing broken bones. It is about a deep, intimate knowledge of the landscape. You know which mosses can be used as soft, absorbent bandages. You know which flowers can settle a colicky infant's stomach. You know that the resin of the pine tree can seal a cut like a second skin, keeping the dirt and the bad spirits out of the blood. You move to the mouth of the cave and look out over the valley. The wind is picking up, carrying the scent of snow. In a few days, the tribe will need to move to the lower camp where the cliffs offer better protection from the winter gales. This will be the true test. You will not leave the injured man behind. You have already begun fashioning a litter made of 2 long poles and a buffalo hide. It will take 4 of you to carry him over the rugged terrain, stumbling over frozen roots and slick stones. It will be exhausting. It will slow the entire group down. But you will do it without question. This compassion extends beyond just the physical. You see it in the way the children are taught to respect the elders who can no longer see well enough to sew. These elders are the libraries of your people. They know where the hidden springs are that never freeze. They remember the great drought from 20 summers ago and how the tribe survived it. They know the songs that must be sung to thank the spirits of the deer. To lose an elder because they are physically frail would be to lose a part of your collective mind. The healing arts of your time are a blend of practical chemistry and spiritual connection. As the elder finishes applying the poultice, she begins to hum a low, vibrating note. It is a song for the marrow, a song to tell the bone how to knit itself back together. You don't see a distinction between the medicine and the music. Both are tools used to restore balance. When someone is sick, it is not just their body that is failing. The harmony between the person and the world has been disrupted. To heal them, you must provide food, herbs, heat, and the reassurance of the tribe's voice. You look back at the fire. A small child is sitting near the elder, watching with wide eyes as she cleans her stone tools. The child is learning. They are learning that when a brother falls, you pick him up. They are learning that the plants of the earth are friends if you know their names. They are learning that the value of a human life is not measured in the number of kills they make, but in the bonds they hold with others. This is the hidden heart of the Stone Age. It is not a place of constant, mindless violence. It is a place where a toothless grandmother is given the softest bits of meat, chewed first by the younger members of the family so she can swallow them. It is a place where a blind boy is taught to hear the approach of a predator long before anyone else, making him a vital guardian for the camp. It is a place where every scar on a person's body is a story of a time the community refused to give up on them. As you prepare to start your day, gathering your gear for a trip to the cedar grove, you feel a profound sense of security. It is not the security of a fortress or a hoard of gold. It is the security of knowing that you are loved. You are part of a circle that does not break. The cold may bite, and the predators may stalk the shadows, but as long as there is a hand to hold and a song to sing, you are never truly alone in the dark. You take a deep breath of the cold air, flavored with the bitter scent of the healing herbs, and you step out into the world, ready to face whatever dangers await, knowing that if you fall, your people will be there to catch you. The world has changed. The air you breathe no longer carries the soft sense of damp earth or blooming wildflowers. Instead, it is sharp, dry, and so cold that it stings the inside of your nostrils with every inhalation. You are living at the height of the last glacial maximum, roughly 20,000 years ago. This is the moment when the great ice sheets have reached their furthest reach, marching down from the north like a slow, white tide that has swallowed half the world. To you, the ice is not just a seasonal visitor. It is the permanent architect of your reality. It is a 2-mile-high wall of crystal blue and blinding white that sits just beyond the horizon, heavy enough to warp the very crust of the earth. You stand at the entrance of your shelter and look out over a landscape that seems to have forgotten the color green. This is the Mammoth Steppe. It is a vast, treeless sea of hardy grasses and herbs, stretched thin across the permafrost. There are no forests here to break the wind. The gales come screaming off the face of the glaciers, carrying fine, gritty dust and powdered snow that scours the skin. You pull your hood tighter, feeling the soft ruff of fox fur tickle your cheeks. This is not just a coat you are wearing. It is a masterpiece of engineering. In this era, your most valuable tool is not a spear or an axe, but a tiny needle made from the bone of a bird. You think about the hours your kin spent polishing that sliver of bone, drilling a microscopic hole through one end with a flint point. Without that needle, you would be dead. You are wearing multiple layers of tailored clothing, each piece fitted specifically to your body. Underneath, you have a soft shirt made of fine reindeer skin, worn with the fur facing inward to trap a layer of warm air against your skin. Over that, you wear a heavier parka with the fur facing out to shed the snow. Your trousers are tucked into boots lined with dried grass for insulation. Every seam has been stitched with dried animal sinew that swells when it gets wet, making your clothes nearly waterproof. You are a walking microclimate. As long as you stay dry and your stitches hold, you can survive temperatures that would freeze a modern human solid in minutes. The sun is low on the horizon, a pale, weak disk that offers light but very little heat. You know that the winter days are short, and the nights are long, dark, and predatory. To survive the night, you rely on the giants of the plains. You turn back inside your home, a structure that is a testament to human ingenuity in a land without timber. There are no trees here to provide logs for a cabin or branches for a lean-to. Instead, your village is made of bone. You step into a circular hut constructed from the remains of woolly mammoths. The foundation is a ring of massive jawbones, interlocked to create a sturdy base. The walls are built from skulls and shoulder blades stacked with the precision of a master mason. For the roof, long, curving tusks have been lashed together to form a dome, over which thick hides are draped and weighted down. It is a house of bone and skin, a heavy, silent fortress against the howling wind outside. In the center of the hut, a fire burns. But this is not the roaring bonfire of the forest dwellers. Wood is a precious rarity, gathered from rare patches of stunted scrub or salvaged from ancient, frozen driftwood. Instead, you burn bone. You have learned that if you get a small fire hot enough, dry bones will catch and burn with a steady blue flame. You also have stone lamps, shallow bowls carved from soft rock, filled with rendered animal fat. A wick made of twisted moss sits in the grease, providing a soft, yellow glow that smells of scorched meat. This light is your lifeline. It allows you to see the faces of your family, to repair your tools, and to keep the crushing darkness of the glacial night at bay. You sit down on a pile of furs, feeling the warmth of the hearth seep into your joints. Your diet is almost entirely meat and fat. In this frozen world, there are no berries to gather, no nuts to forage, and no roots to dig from the iron-hard ground. You are a specialist carnivore. You eat the lean muscle of the reindeer, the vitamin-rich organs of the horse, and the thick, yellow blubber of the mammoth. Fat is the gold of the Ice Age. It provides the dense calories your body needs to generate internal heat. Without it, your fire would go out and your heart would stop. You suck the marrow from a boiled bone, savoring the rich, buttery taste. It is the purest form of energy you can find. Living in the Great Chill requires a different kind of mindset. You cannot be reckless. Every movement must be calculated. If you sweat too much while hunting, that moisture will freeze against your skin and lead to frostbite. If you lose a mitten, you might lose a hand. If you break a leg, you cannot be moved and the group cannot stay. You live with a constant, low-level awareness of the margins. You are constantly observing the sky, reading the shape of the clouds and the direction of the wind. You know that a shift in the air can mean a blizzard is coming that might last for a week, burying your bone huts under 10 feet of snow. But you are not a victim of this environment. You are its master. You and your people have tracked the great herds for generations. You know the migration paths of the reindeer as they move toward the sheltered valleys. You know how to ambush a woolly rhinoceros by driving it into a deep snowdrift where its heavy body becomes a trap. You have developed a language that is rich with terms for snow, ice, and the subtle behaviors of animals. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. Your people create art in the flicker of the fat lamps, carving intricate figures of lions and mammoths from mammoth ivory. You sew beads made of shell and bone onto your clothing, not because it helps you stay warm, but because you have a need for beauty even in the harshest place on earth. As the wind moans through the mammoth tusks of your roof, you think about the vastness of the world outside. Beyond the ice, there are other lands, but for you, this is the center of the universe. The cold has forged a bond between you and your kin that is unbreakable. You rely on each other for everything. The person who scrapes the hides, the person who naps the flint, the person who tracks the herd, and the person who sews the waterproof seams are all links in a chain. If one link fails, the chain breaks. This interdependence is your greatest strength. It is what allowed your ancestors to push into these frozen wastes and what will allow your children to see the spring. You lie back on the furs, listening to the rhythmic breathing of your family and the occasional crackle of the bone fire. The world outside is a white void, a place of absolute zero and unforgiving silence. But inside the circle of bones, there is warmth, there is light, and there is the low, steady hum of human conversation. You are a child of the ice, a survivor of the great maximum, and you have turned the most hostile environment on the planet into a home. The ice may be 2 miles thick, and the winter may last a lifetime, but the fire in your hearth and the blood in your veins are hotter than the cold will ever be. You close your eyes, feeling the security of the mammoth skulls surrounding you, and you sleep, ready to face the blinding white world again tomorrow. You find yourself moving through a valley that feels older than the world you left behind. The trees here are thick and gnarled, their branches heavy with a frost that never seems to melt. You are not alone on this journey. Your kin are with you, moving in a silent line, their eyes scanning the tree-line for any sign of movement. But you are not just looking for the massive elk or the woolly rhinoceros. You are looking for them. For generations, your ancestors have told stories of the others. They are the people of the shadows, the ones who were here before your kind arrived from the warmer lands to the south. You call them the old ones, or perhaps you have no name for them at all, only a feeling of deep, instinctual caution. As you round a bend in the river, the smell hits you first. It is not the smell of your own camp, which carries the scent of pine smoke and dried meat. This is different. It is the heavy, musky scent of a different kind of fire, perhaps fueled by bone and damp peat. You freeze, signaling to the others behind you. You crouch low in the tall, yellowed grass, your fingers tightening around the smooth shaft of your spear. And then you see him. He is standing by the water's edge, gutting a large fish with a flint knife that looks like a part of his own hand. At first glance, he looks like one of your own, but as he stands up, the differences become startlingly clear. He is shorter than you, perhaps only 5 feet tall, but his frame is immense. His shoulders are twice as broad as yours, and his chest is deep and barrel-shaped. He does not have the lean, willow-like build of your people, who are made for running long distances across the open plains. He is built like a mountain, solid and powerful, designed to retain every ounce of heat in this brutal, ice-chilled world. His face is what holds your gaze. Above his eyes sits a massive, continuous ridge of bone that shades his face like a rocky overhang. His nose is wide and prominent, a biological heater designed to warm the freezing air before it reaches his lungs. He has no chin to speak of, his jaw receding into a thick, muscular neck. To you, he looks like a creature of the earth itself, something carved out of stone and grit. This is a Neanderthal. You are witnessing a moment that has been repeated thousands of times over the course of 5,000 years. This is the great meeting of the 2 branches of humanity. You are Homo sapiens, the newcomer, the traveler who has walked from the sun-drenched savannas of Africa into the frozen heart of Europe. He is Homo neanderthalensis, the master of the ice, whose lineage has survived here for nearly 400,000 years. The Neanderthal turns his head. He has caught your scent, or perhaps he heard the soft rustle of your furs. He does not run. He does not scream. He simply stands there, his heavy brow lowered, watching you with eyes that are just as intelligent and just as filled with soul as your own. In this moment, the air feels thick with a strange tension. This is the uncanny valley of the Paleolithic. You are looking at someone who is human, but not quite your kind of human. You notice the tools hanging from his belt. They are different from yours. Your people have spent generations perfecting the art of the long-distance kill. You carry light, aerodynamic spears and perhaps even an otlotl, a spear thrower that allows you to strike from 100 yards away. Your tools are made from delicate blades of flint, chipped away until they are as thin and sharp as a modern razor. His tools, however, are built for power. His spear is a heavy, thick-shafted weapon meant for thrusting. To use it, he must get close. He must look his prey in the eye, whether it is a bison or a cave bear, and drive that flint point home with the full force of his massive upper body. He is a hunter of the thickets and the forests, an ambush predator of unparalleled skill. As you watch him, you begin to realize that the stories of your elders were only half true. They called these people brutes, but you see the way he handles the fish, the way he carefully cleans his knife on a piece of leather. You see the jewelry around his neck, a string of eagle talons that have been polished and dyed with red ochre. He has art. He has culture. Somewhere nearby, in a cave tucked into the limestone cliffs, his family is waiting for him. There is an old woman there who can no longer walk, but she is still alive because they feed her and keep her warm. There is a child who was born with a deformed foot, yet he thrives because the group carries him. These are not the actions of unthinking beasts. These are the actions of a people who feel love, grief, and loyalty just as deeply as you do. The interaction between your two species is not the cinematic war that future storytellers will imagine. There are no grand battles between armies of sapiens and Neanderthals. Instead, there is a slow, quiet, and often confusing overlap. In some valleys, you might avoid each other entirely, living on opposite sides of a ridge for centuries, never once making contact. In other places, you might raid each other's camps, driven by the desperate hunger of a long winter. But in many places, something else happens. Curiosity overcomes fear. You imagine a night, perhaps years from now, when the moon is full and the hunger is not too biting. Your band and his band might find themselves at the same river crossing. A trade might occur. A piece of high-quality flint from the south exchanged for a thick, expertly cured bear hide from the north. And in the flickering light of a shared fire, the boundaries between us and them begin to blur. We know now, from the secrets hidden in our own blood, that you and he did more than just trade tools. You traded lives. You looked into each other's eyes and saw a partner. Some of your women joined their bands, and some of their men were welcomed into yours. This was not a conquest of one over the other. It was a merging. Even now, tens of thousands of years later, nearly everyone on Earth who is not of pure African descent carries a piece of that Neanderthal man within them. About 2% of your genetic code is a direct legacy of these encounters. Their immune systems, their hair textures, and even the way their skin responded to the northern sun were passed down to you, helping your kind survive in a world that was once theirs. But as you stand in the grass, watching the Neanderthal by the river, you cannot know the future. You cannot know that within a few thousand years, his kind will vanish as a distinct group. You do not know that the climate is changing, the forests giving way to vast, open tundras where his ambush style of hunting will no longer work. You do not know that your people's ability to live in massive social networks, sharing information over hundreds of miles, will eventually give you an edge that raw physical strength cannot match. For now, he is simply a man by a river. He picks up his fish, gives you one last, lingering look, and then turns away, disappearing into the dark shadows of the pines with a silent, heavy grace. He moves with a confidence that comes from belonging to a place. He is the master of this valley, the keeper of the old ways. You watch the spot where he stood for a long time, the silence of the woods returning, broken only by the distant crack of a falling branch. You feel a strange sense of loss as he disappears, a feeling you cannot quite name. It is the realization that the world is much larger and more complicated than you ever imagined. You are not the only ones who think, who dream, or who mourn their dead. You continue your journey, but you walk a little differently now. You are more aware of the eyes in the shadows, the footprints in the mud that do not match your own. You are living in a time of two humanities, a brief and beautiful window in history where the earth was shared by cousins. As the sun begins to dip behind the jagged peaks of the mountains, casting long, purple shadows across the snow, you lead your kin toward a shelter for the night. You find a shallow overhang, and as you start your fire, you look at the smoke rising into the darkening sky. Somewhere, not too far away, another plume of smoke rises to meet it. You are not the same, but in the cold of the great ice age you are both seeking the same thing. A moment of warmth, a belly full of food, and the safety of the firelight. You wrap your furs around you, the smell of the mammoth bone huts of your past fading into the sharp, fresh scent of the pine forest, and you realize that to be a human in this world is to be part of a vast, tangled family tree, with roots that go deeper than the ice and branches that reach toward an unknown future. You close your eyes, the image of the man with the heavy brow burned into your mind, a reminder that in this harsh world, you are never truly alone. The encounter has changed you, adding a new layer to the story of who you are and who you will become. The clash of kin was not a sound of breaking bone, but the quiet, steady rhythm of two worlds touching, before one slowly faded into the other, leaving only a ghost in the blood of the survivors. You stand on a ridge of dark volcanic rock, looking out over a valley that has no name. To your back is the world you know. It is a world of familiar watering holes, the specific scent of the acacia trees after a rain, and the burial mounds of your ancestors. But ahead of you, the horizon is wide and empty. The wind blowing against your face carries the scent of salt and strange, blooming flowers you have never seen. You are not moving because you are lost. You are moving because the world is calling to you, and for the first time in the history of your kind, you have the tools, the fire, and the sheer stubborn will to answer. This is the Great Migration. It is not a single journey made by a single hero. It is a slow, rhythmic pulse of humanity, a tidal wave that moves at the speed of a few miles per generation. You are a part of a lineage that is walking out of the cradle of Africa and into the vast, unknown expanse of the earth. You do not have a map. You do not even have a concept of a continent. You only have the next valley, the next river, and the persistent, nagging feeling that there is something worth seeing just beyond the next rise. Imagine the weight of your life on your back. You are not carrying suitcases or trunks. You carry the essentials. There is a pouch of dried meat and berries tied to your waist. Your spear, balanced perfectly in your hand, is an extension of your arm. You might be carrying a child on your hip, their small hands clutching your furs, their eyes wide as they take in the shifting landscape. Behind you, your family follows. There are the elders, their skin mapped with the wrinkles of 1,000 stories, and the young men and women who look at the horizon with the same hungry curiosity as you. The first great barrier you encounter is the heat. As you move through the Levantine corridor, the lush greenery of the south begins to thin. The air becomes dry and sharp, tasting of dust and sun-baked stone. You learn to read the flight of birds to find hidden springs. You learn that the shade of a single stunted tree is more valuable than gold. You are adapting. Your body, once suited for the humid forests, is becoming leaner and more efficient. You are learning to hunt new prey, creatures with long horns and skittish feet that thrive in the scrubland. But the world is changing as you walk. You are living through an era of shifting climates. 1 century, the path ahead is a desert of shifting sands that seems impossible to cross. The next, a shift in the Earth's tilt brings the monsoons north, turning the wasteland into a corridor of lakes and grasslands. You follow the green. You follow the herds of gazelle and wild cattle that are also seeking better pastures. You are a predator, yes, but you are also a passenger on the back of a changing planet. As the generations pass, your descendants reach the shores of the great ocean. You stand on the beaches of what will one day be called India and Southeast Asia. The air here is heavy and wet, smelling of rot and life and salt water. This is a new world entirely. The old rules of the savannah do not apply here. You learn to walk along the tiddlelines, gathering shellfish and crabs. You discover that the ocean is a provider, a vast blue larder that never empties if you know how to respect it. Perhaps this is where you build your first craft. It is not a ship, but a simple raft of lashed bamboo or fallen logs. You sit on this precarious platform, feeling the swell of the deep water beneath you for the first time. It is terrifying and exhilarating. You are no longer a creature of the earth alone. You are venturing onto the water, hopping from island to island. You are driven by the sight of smoke on a distant horizon or the flight of a bird heading toward a land you cannot see. This courage is what carries you across the sea to the Sahul, the great landmass that will eventually become Australia. You arrive in a land of red dust and strange, hopping giants, becoming the first humans to ever set foot on a continent that had been isolated for millions of years. But while some of your kin follow the warmth of the coast, others turn north. You are among those who face the wall of cold. As you move into the heart of Eurasia, the sun becomes a pale, weak thing that hangs low in the sky. The wind no longer carries the scent of flowers, but the bite of ice. To survive here, you must become a master of technology. You learn to use a needle made of bone to sew the hides of reindeer and mammoth into tight, insulated clothing. You learn to build shelters not of branches, but of the very bones and tusks of the great beasts you hunt, draped in heavy skins and weighed down by earth. You are living on the edge of the world. The mammoth steppe is a vast, treeless sea of grass that stretches for thousands of miles, frozen hard by the permafrost. Here you are a ghost in the white. You track the great herds through blizzards that can freeze the breath in your lungs. You have mastered fire to such an extent that it is no longer just a tool for cooking, but a literal shield against death. You sit huddled in your bone hut, listening to the howling wind outside, sharing the warmth of your kin and the stories of the warm lands your ancestors left behind so long ago. It is this mastery of the cold that prepares you for the greatest crossing of all. To the east lies a bridge made not of stone or wood, but of time and ice. Beringia, a vast plain that connects Siberia to the Americas, exposed by the dropping sea levels of the Ice Age. You do not know you are crossing into a new hemisphere. You only know that the mammoth are moving east, and you must follow them. You spend generations on this lost continent of grass and ice, a bridge between worlds. When the path finally opens to the south, you pour into the Americas like water through a broken dam. You see things no human eye has ever beheld. You walk past glaciers that reach the clouds and forests of giant redwoods that seem to touch the stars. You hunt the giant ground sloth and the mastodon. You move with incredible speed, spreading from the Arctic North to the tip of South America in what is, in the grand scale of time, a mere heartbeat. Think of the sheer distance you have covered. From the Rift Valley of Africa to the mountains of the Andes. You have walked across the world. You have crossed deserts, climbed the highest passes of the Himalayas, paddled across open oceans, and survived the crushing weight of the polar winter. And you did it all on foot. You did it without wheels, without horses, and without maps. What was driving you? It was more than just hunger. It was more than just following the herds. There is a spark in you, a restless curiosity that defines your species. You are the animal that looks at a mountain and wonders what is on the other side. You are the creature that sees a star and tries to walk toward it. This wanderlust is not a flaw, but your greatest strength. It ensured that no matter what happened in one corner of the world, whether a volcano erupted or a drought took hold, humanity would survive somewhere else. As you sit by your fire in a new land, looking at the stars, you realize that the sky has changed. The patterns of light above you are not the ones your grandfather described. You have mapped the heavens with your feet. You are the first global citizen. You have turned the entire planet into your home. Every forest, every coast, and every tundra now bears the footprint of your people. You have completed the long migration, not because you reached a destination, but because you realized that the journey itself is what it means to be human. You are the wanderer, the seeker, and the survivor, and the world is finally yours. You stand at the edge of a wide valley, and the air you breathe is no longer the biting, crystalline wind of the great ice. It is soft, heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers. For countless generations, your ancestors followed the rhythm of the great herds. They moved because the mammoths moved, they traveled because the reindeer migrated, and they survived because they were as fluid as the rivers. But the world is changing now. The massive glaciers that once weighed down the continents are weeping, retreating into the high mountains and the distant north. The land beneath your feet is waking up in a way your great-grandfathers would hardly recognize. You are living through the end of an era, though you do not have a name for it yet. To you, it is simply the long spring. You reach down and touch the tall grass swaying in the breeze. It is wild wheat, a golden sea that stretches toward the horizon. In your hand, you carry a new kind of tool. It is a curved piece of wood, inlaid with sharp flakes of flint that have been glued into a groove with birch resin. This is a sickle. You do not use it to skin a deer or scrape a hide. You use it to harvest. As you sweep the blade through the stalks, you hear a rhythmic swish, a sound that will eventually become the heartbeat of human civilization. This grass is no longer just something the bison eat. It is something you eat. You have learned that if you gather these seeds, if you crush them between two heavy stones and mix them with water, you can create something that sustains you through the lean months. You look back at your camp, but it is not the temporary circle of hearths you are used to. There are houses here now. They are circular, built from field stones and mud, with roofs of thick thatch. You did not build them to be taken down in a week. You built them to stay. For the first time in the history of your kind, you are not a guest in the landscape. You are a resident. You have dug pits into the floor to store the surplus grain, and you have built walls to keep out the wind. There is a strange, new sensation growing in your chest. It is the feeling of ownership. This patch of earth is yours. This grain is yours. The mountain in the distance is no longer your destination. It is your landmark. But this new life comes with a price that your body is already beginning to pay. Your back aches in a way your father never mentioned. He spent his days walking, tracking, and waiting in silence. You spend your days bent double, pulling weeds from the soil so they do not choke your precious crops. Your knees are stiff from kneeling on the hard ground to grind the grain for hours. When you run your tongue over your teeth, you feel the grit of the stone dust that has mixed with your flour, wearing down your enamel. You are shorter than your ancestors, and your bones show the signs of repetitive labor and a diet that lacks the wild variety of the old ways. You eat more than they did, perhaps, but you eat the same few things every single day. You have traded the freedom of the nomad for the security of the granary, and it is a heavy bargain. The sun begins to set, casting long, orange shadows across the tilled earth. In the distance, you hear a sound that would have been impossible 1,000 years ago. It is the bleat of a goat, but it is not a wild goat fleeing from your spear. It is a goat that lives behind a fence. You have brought the wild into your circle. You have learned that you do not need to hunt every meal if you keep the herd close. You protect them from the wolves, and in return, they give you their milk and their offspring. You are no longer just a predator. You are a shepherd. You are a master of life and death in a way that feels powerful and terrifying all at once. As the stars begin to emerge, you sit by the central fire of the village. There are more people here than you have ever seen in one place. In the old days, your group was 20 or 30 people, and you knew every breath they took. Now there are hundreds. You see faces you do not know well. There are rules now, ways to behave so that so many people can live together without drawing blood. You talk about the harvest, about the rain, and about the gods who live in the soil. The old spirits of the forest are still there, but they are being joined by new gods, gods of the sun and the storm, gods who demand labor and sacrifice to ensure the grain grows. You look at your children playing near the stone walls. They will never know the feeling of the endless trek. They will never know what it is like to wake up every week in a new valley with a new horizon. To them, the world is this village. The world is the field, the well, and the sheep pen. They are the first generation of a new kind of human. They are the builders of fences and the keepers of calendars. They do not look at the moon to know when to move. They look at the moon to know when to plant. You feel a sense of loss, a ghostly tug at your heart for the old life. You remember the stories your grandfather told of the great hunt, of the days when the world was vast and humans were few. In those stories, the earth was a gift that was shared by everyone and owned by no one. Now you look at the stones that mark the boundary of your field. If someone crosses that line to take your grain, there will be a fight. You have things to protect now. You have a home, and that home has made you a target. You have more food, but you have more fear. You have more neighbors, but you have more secrets. The fire pops, sending a shower of sparks into the night air. You realize that you cannot go back. The forests are being cleared, the marshes are being drained, and the wild places are shrinking. You have stepped through a door that has locked behind you. The age of the nomad is fading like the morning mist, and the age of the farmer is rising with the heat of the sun. You are the bridge between these two worlds. You were born of the wanderers, but you will die as a settler. You think about the spirits of the ancestors. Do they still recognize you? Do they understand why you have traded the spear for the plow? You hope they do. You hope they see that you are doing this so your children do not have to starve when the herds do not come. You are building a foundation, a permanent mark on the face of the earth. You are no longer just surviving the world, you are shaping it. You are digging your fingernails into the dirt and claiming it as your own. As you lie down on your bed of reeds inside your stone house, you listen to the sounds of the village. You hear the rhythmic breathing of your family, the rustle of the stored grain, and the distant bark of a dog. The world feels smaller now, more contained. It is no longer an endless mystery to be explored, but a garden to be tended. You close your eyes, and in your dreams, you are still running across the open tundra, chasing the shadow of a mammoth. But when you wake up, the sun will rise over your fields, and you will go back to work. The twilight of the nomad has passed, and the long, busy day of the farmer has begun. You are the first of your kind, the one who stopped walking and started building, and nothing will ever be the same again. You think about the stories that will be told around this fire 1,000 years from now. Will they remember the name of the man who first saved the seeds? Will they remember the woman who first realized that the goats could be tamed? Probably not. Your names will be lost to time, but your work will endure in every loaf of bread, every city wall, and every road that will eventually stretch across the world. You are the silent architect of everything that is to come. You have traded the wild beauty of the unknown for the hard-won stability of the known. It is a sacrifice you make every day with every drop of sweat that falls into the furrowed earth. The moon hangs high over the valley, illuminating the patchwork of fields that now cover the floor of the glen. From up here, the earth looks different. It looks organized. It looks intentional. The chaos of nature is being replaced by the order of man. You take one last look at the dark, jagged peaks of the mountains where the wild things still roam, and then you step inside your house and pull the heavy door shut. The world outside is still there, but for tonight you are safe within the walls you built. You are a farmer now, and the earth is your partner, your master, and your home. This is the dawn of the new world, and you are its first citizen. You have left the caves behind for good, and though you may miss the freedom of the hunt, you find a new kind of peace in the rhythm of the seasons and the promise of the harvest. The journey of the nomad has ended, and the story of civilization has finally truly begun.